Today, we're diving into the story of history's greatest financial illusion. It's a wild tale of staggering wealth, unbelievable deception, and how it all came crashing down with just one sentence. So let's start with a number. $65 billion. It's a figure so huge, it's almost hard to wrap your head around, right? But for thousands of people, it was devastatingly real. This was the grand total of a lie that went on for decades.
And those were the words. That was the sentence that brought the entire empire to its knees. In December of 2008, Bernie Madoff, a man who was basically Wall Street royalty, dropped this bombshell on his own sons. It was the confession that officially ended the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. But what was this one big lie? I mean, how could one person possibly orchestrate a fraud this massive for so long? Well, to really understand the lie, you first have to understand the man who told it.
You see, before he became the face of financial ruin, Bernie Madoff was something way more dangerous. He was a trusted, respected icon on Wall Street. He spent decades carefully building his legend, piece by piece.
And this is really the key to the whole deception. Madoff wasn't some shady character working from the shadows. No, he started his firm, Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, way back in the 1960s, and he built a completely legitimate, groundbreaking business.
And his credibility? Oh, it ran deep. This was a guy who was a central player in developing the electronic trading that pretty much defines our modern markets. He was the chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange, not once, but 3 different times. These weren't just jobs, they were basically seals of approval from the entire financial world. So the best way to picture his operation is like a financial mullet. Seriously, business in the front, party in the back. Upstairs, on the public floors, he ran his real, legit trading firm. But downstairs, hidden away from everyone, was the secret engine of the fraud, a whole other operation built on fake numbers and fictional profit. But Madoff's real secret sauce wasn't his business. It was his charisma and this air of insane exclusivity. You couldn't just call up and invest with him. You had to be invited. This made people feel so lucky just to give him their money, like they were being let into this secret ultra-elite club. It was the perfect setup. Don't ask any questions, just enjoy the ride. So how did this magic money machine actually work? You know, people assumed it had to be some incredibly complex, genius-level strategy. But the reality? It was shockingly simple. It was a textbook Ponzi scheme. That's it. He'd take money from new investors, promise these incredibly steady, too-good-to-be-true returns like 10 to 12% a year every year. Then he'd just use that new cash to pay off the earlier investors who wanted to cash out. To keep the illusion going, he'd just print fake account statements showing trades that never, ever happened. That was the whole scam. Now, whenever someone did ask about his secret, he'd mention his split-strike conversion strategy. It sounds super complex, right? Well, that was the point. It was just a smokescreen. Financial mumbo-jumbo designed to make people feel too dumb or too intimidated to ask any follow-up questions. It was his way of saying, hey, trust me, it's way too complicated for you to understand. And he wasn't doing this all by himself. He actually outsourced a big part of the scam using what are called feeder funds. Think of these other investment firms as his personal hype man. They'd go out, gather billions from clients all over the world, and just funnel it straight into Bernie's black hole, taking a nice little fee for themselves, of course. Okay, so this all just begs the biggest question of all, right? If the scam was this simple, why didn't anybody stop him? I mean, where were the regulators? The watchdogs whose entire job is to protect investors from exactly this kind of thing. Well, here's the crazy part. Someone did try to stop him. For years, this financial analyst named Harry Markopolos kept warning the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. He ran the numbers, figured out it was mathematically impossible to get the returns Madoff claimed, and basically handed them the case on a silver platter, telling them this guy is a fraud. And yet the SEC just failed, spectacularly. They got credible tips for almost a decade, and when they finally did investigate, they made this fatal mistake. They asked Madoff himself for the evidence, so just print up some fake records, hand them over, and they'd accept them. They never took the most basic step of checking those trades with an independent third party. It was a complete and total failure of imagination. But a lie like this, it can only go on for so long. Eventually, reality has to come crashing in. And boy did it in the form of the 2008 global financial crisis. That crisis was the pin that burst the Madoff bubble.
As the market crashed, investors got scared and wanted their money back. All at once, withdrawal requests hit a staggering $7 billion. But the constant flow of new money he needed to pay them out had completely dried up. Bernie didn't have the cash, because it was never really there to begin with.
The end came fast. On December 10th, he confessed everything to his sons. They immediately went to the authorities. The very next day, the FBI arrested him. By June 2009, he pled guilty and was sentenced to 150 years in prison, where he eventually died in 2021. And just like that, the illusion was shattered.
The fallout was just immense. The victims weren't just the super rich. We're talking charities, universities, retirees, people who lost their entire life savings. The scandal led to a huge public takedown of the SEC and pushed major reforms, including much stronger protections for whistleblowers. And Madoff himself? He became a permanent cultural symbol for pure greed and deception.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The Madoff story isn't just about a con man. It's a story about trust and how easily trust can be turned into a weapon. And it leaves us all with a pretty unsettling question. What's the greater danger? The villain you can see coming from a mile away, or the one who's hiding behind a friendly smile, a fancy title, and what looks like a spotless record?